Hi everyone, I want to welcome you back to part 2. Alright, so this is where we are on the user login. At the time of recording this video, we have now 709 subscribers. Thank you so much. Continue subscribing, and so that we can beat the YouTube algorithm, and also our channel grows. Alright, so let me go ahead. So in the previous video, we managed to create a check for the login. So we are able to determine based on the keyword. So, and then we managed to create when I go to the register page, login. So we managed to send a dispatch after checking for the errors. We sent a dispatch where we're covering the keyword, business ID, worker ID, and password. And then in the dispatch, if I check, okay, I've made them quite bigger so that people can see. We are getting the login credentials here. So this is where we now put our Axios requests. Okay, so we are awaiting. So this must be an async. Okay, so we are sending to this path in our API, which path is auth as a prefix and then login. And then we are taking along the collect login credentials that came in as our payload, and then we expect to get a response. So what I can do, okay, the response is being console logged. All right, so which means when you go to the back end, now let me first send this, and you'll see we will get a warning, and that warning is for those who are using Vue, those who are using Laravel. Okay, so let's inspect. Now of course it will stay frozen like that because we must first determine what we have. All right, so let me send again to the console. Okay, and you can see it's giving us a warning about this, and it's giving us an error of 500. So let me click here, then we see what Laravel is responding. It's saying that the target class is not being seen. Now, when you go to Laravel, in the web where you have your routers, if you're using the API router, it's also something different. We created a router group that is going to check our auth, and the prefix is an auth, and the namespace is auth. And then these are our controllers. So we have an auth controller. All right, so the reason it's giving this is because the namespace is not being detected. So we're going to come, instead it expects you to use this whole string. So we're going to come here, and then we uncomment this because it's there by default, but it's commented. So we uncomment that the default namespace that should be followed will be this. All right, so the controller is already there. So if I send again, all right, we have another error. By this time around, the error is about the method. So it is looking for the method, but it can't find the method login, which means it's already now getting into our controller. So I'm going to go to the controller where the controller is. Oh, by the way, you find this, the commenting in, when you come to your providers, and then you look for the route service providers. That's where you comment this. So we're going to go to our controllers. Under auth, I have what they call the auth controller. And in here, I'm going to call what I called logins. I'm going to call the login function or login method. So I can go and create a function. And the function is going to be, it's going to be a public function. The function is going to be login, and it will be taking in a request because it's a post, a request, and a request variable. Of course, we expect a few things to be called. Let me hide this. We expect something concerning auth to be called. The first thing we're going to take in is, of course, the requests, because we need those requests to check our responses. So we're going to first check for our keyword. So we're going to put $keyword, maybe keyword, which will equal to request. Okay, $request. Dollar is a symbol for a variable. Key W. All right, then we shall determine from there. I'm going to do a die dump of key W, keyword, sorry, a die dump of keyword. All right, then we see if we're getting our keyword or the keyword is getting to the login function. So let's go ahead and send. Okay, I'll send again. All right, so here I have the login function, and you can see the keyword is the same keyword here. It's like admin, you know. Login, if I click. All right, so at this moment we can determine now, based on the keyword, before even bring in some other things. Now, let's first bring in, for example, we have the business ID. Business ID, which is bringing in the business underscore ID. So we're also bringing in the worker ID, which is a variable. Worker ID, which takes in from a request that identifies the worker ID. Worker ID. Then lastly, the password. So password, okay, which brings in a request from the PW. So remember, we called it PW. So request, and then we point at PW, then we terminate. Great. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to determine based on the word, okay, what should be looked for, or which table we should look into. So if, okay, keyword, so if keyword is equal to, so is equivalent, it's like, is equivalent to admin, do the following. Then else if the keyword is equivalent to manager, do the following. And then else, because the other is an else, and which will be the default if someone does not else, it should look into the other. So we're going to do a die dump. Else, okay. So die dump is going to just bring a sentence that says you have logged in as a manager. Let's say this can be admin login, and then the other is going to be manager login, and the other is going to be, so this is going to be an else if too, because we want to determine what if someone does not type those particular keywords. This is worker login. So else if keyword is equal to worker. Then else the return value will be, instead of keyword, the return value will be, all right, so let's determine those. So since the keyword is admin, we expect something that says admin login. If the keyword is worker, we expect something that says you're a worker. If the keyword is manager, we expect something that says manager. If the keyword is anything else, we expect something that says you are not employed here. All right, so at this moment, it means we are now capable of determining which table to look for information into based on the keyword. Then we submit the credentials. All right, let's go ahead and do so. Okay, so let's go ahead and submit first when the keyword is admin. That should be looking through the table of user. And then we're going to say if auth attempt. So if someone is attempting auth, that's by default in Laravel. However, I expect you to be using your API or to have done this all in your API. So if auth attempt, the first thing we want to do is the worker ID, which will be an email. And then, so if auth attempt, so email, which is going to be the same as the worker ID. This can be an array. And then we add a comma, password, again, which is going to be looking at the password array. So if they attempt that, and whatever they are attempting is true, let's do the following, okay? So that's what it's saying. So the following we're going to do, we're going to look or return a response. So we're going to return a JSON data. So we're going to return a response. And then this response is going to point into JSON data. So it's going to be JSON. And then that JSON will contain the user that is logged in. So auth user. And then also give us a 200 status. Okay, we can terminate. Now, of course, it's going to be asking me for this because it cannot find these. This is supposed to be a single arrow. Okay, so it's going to be asking me for auth user. So I already imported my model for the user and also the auth from facets. Okay, so which means I should be able to get the JSON data of the user that is logged in. So this time around, I'm going to enter that the keyword is admin. And then this is not valid for the moment, but the email and then the password. So you should be able to return to me that user in particular as a JSON response. All right, so it says mismatch of CRF token. I just need to refresh because the token that is used for the session is expired. Okay, so let me try logging in again. So the keyword must be admin because it's the first one we're determining. Then the email that is already in the database and then the password. All right, so let's try to log in this time around. All right, so it seems we're not receiving, okay, it has responded. So you can see that the first name is this, okay? And then it is supposed to respond that back to the database. It's supposed to respond this back, and it's also giving it back here in the console log. And you can see the status is 200. And then it is giving us the data of the first name and the, whichever user is sending back the data. All right, so which means we can go ahead and capture that in our storage because it's in the console response. And then, so we need to create a state that is taking in the user. All right, so I'm going to create here that the user is empty. So in the mutations, I'm going to create another user, another another mutation that says set user. Okay. And then it's taking in the state, and then it's taking in another variable which can be user data or user credentials. Okay, so I need a comma here. So which means now I'll do a state.user, which will equal to user data. So I can even take one item out of the user data. It can be the email or something. All right, or the user ID, it depends. So I'm going to come here and I do a state.commit. So I can comment this so that I do not have a console log. So I'll do, the first thing I'm going to do is let user x, okay, equal to response.data. Response.data. Great. So with that, we're going now to state.commit, and then we are taking to set user is our first mutation. So set user is the mutation we've just created up here. Okay, set user, and then set user is taking in something. So it is taking in user data. Great. So which means this function can be let user data equal to response.data. All right, so which means we are now having user data, and I'm going to generate that user data inside our login. So I'm going to get, okay. So I need to add a comma here, by the way. All right, so this one is going to be get user, and then you're taking in the states, so state.user. Great. So which means we can go again now to, by the way, we can choose here where we go to. We can choose here where we go to, but I'm going to talk about it in the next video. But I'm just going to establish which user is now logged in onto the login page. All right, so we're going to come down here and then we create a computed property just after our method. I think I'll just push this in. So we're going to create a computed property, and I think it will take in a function called login maybe. And then this login should be able to get us some return. So which return will be this dot store dot getters dot get user. Okay, that should be enough. And then we need to come up here and render our login. So I'm going to put it here. So okay, I'm going to call in login so that we can see what we need. Okay, so that should be good to go. Great, so you can see it is rendering our login. So it's up to you now to choose what value of the login you need. Okay, so I can say login.firstname, but it's bringing us all our properties. So I can say login.firstname maybe. And then if I refresh, it's bringing our first name. All right, so that's what we need to learn for the moment. So the fact that we are able to log in, I think we should be able to determine now and get the state and redirect or even change. So we're going to check if the user is logged in. Instead, this should be log out. All right, so let's do that in the next video. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Thank you.